So today we're going to talk about the Spark Compass platform. It's a platform that's been deployed, as you will see. It delivers what we call contextually intelligent communication. We're going to showcase what that really means, and we're going to show that we deliver data with a purpose. Since this is our first time, I'd like to introduce myself, Erik Bjontegard. As you will see, I've done a couple of things in my past, but one thing I like to say as often as I can, and that is that I used to be a rocket scientist. I used to work with NASA and had some fun with them. Prior to that, worked closely with on robotics, and later in life worked with a company called Qualcomm. Qualcomm is a big telco inventor. A lot of the technologies that we all have in our phones are built by and invented by Qualcomm. I was in corporate R&D, and I took a couple of things to market, as you will see. One of which was the technology that you're familiar with, gimbal. Another one was what we now know as 5G. I've built this platform, and we built a platform that you will talk about, and this is a little bit just to get a feeling for the kind of people that likes this platform. These are enterprise level customers, these are technology leaders, these are retail leaders, and it's all about delivering outcomes and delivering technology with a purpose. As I mentioned, we were launch partners with a couple of new technologies after leaving Qualcomm. One was a technology called Firethorn, was the beginning of mobile payments. We were also launch partner with Gimbal many years ago. We helped Gimbal build a lot of the things that they can do, and they've done. We also highlighted some of the challenges that they have, so that when we were looking at indoor navigation, we recognized that having 500 beacons at the airport wasn't going to do the navigation components, but Apple had a new technology, so we became a launch partner with Apple, and we also launched the wearables for Samsung at the same installation. Just sharing this to showcase that the understanding of the technology is something that we have, and this can become helpful when we are deploying things with partners. We have some of the biggest companies in the world as partners, both Google and AWS, IBM Watson, Qualcomm, Samsung, etc., etc. All right, what's it all about? We know, and I was aware when I was at Qualcomm 10 years ago, and we invented 5G, that there was going to become a fully connected world, a place where data was going to be captured, data was going to be utilized, but then what? What are you going to do with the data? That's really where we come in, and we built the Spark Compass platform that it has one single purpose. Single purpose is to improve outcomes, and that single purpose is delivered by capturing data to understand who we communicate with. Not only who, but where, what are they doing, and what would be beneficial for them to know at this very moment of time. Now, that sounds like a big deal, but we've deployed it, and we put it together in a series of installations around the world, as we will show shortly. Now, I know you guys are technical, so this might be a little bit rudimentary, but it still tells a little powerful story, and it tells us powerful story about what is it that we are doing. Now, so imagine if you had a system where you can automatically set up and activate things based on understanding of conditions, age, gender, what kind of behavior the user is, but location, what kind of a thing are we trying to do? Are we based on a location, or are we looking at a distance from another locations? And if such a system could be created where it automatically triggers based on behavior of the user, whether they are standing by something, they're walking into something, they are watching something, they're listening to something, and if such a system can use its parameters and the actions to deliver content that is set up once, and it's so it doesn't have to be done on the fly. It's actually pre-created, and these things are automatically delivering the content. And if the system can be delivered with a reason, why is it doing this? What are we trying to achieve? What are the outcomes we're trying to achieve? And can we enhance something? Can we reward something? And where the system can actually verify, and if it can understand it could repeat what works and stop what doesn't work. All of a sudden you have what we call contextually intelligent communication. I'm gonna take a quick break there and see if does this kind of make sense. I know I'm going really fast, but it all resonates and yep, perfect. So that's what we have. We have a patented platform and process. The process is as follows. If you have a connected device that has a series of sensors on it, or that connected device is talking to a series of sensors in its surrounding, you can understand contextual awareness: who, what, where, when, what are the activity. That's communicated with whatever communication protocol, 5G, 4G, BLE, Sigfox, into a centralized computation device, such as in the cloud. And we combine this contextual awareness with knowledge about the user, knowledge about the location, knowledge about the activity. We then serve up curated content to this person at this very moment of time, in this context bubble, on the device that he has in his hand, or any other device that is in his proximity, so that we can enhance that moment of time. And if there's something that is of value, or there is a response, we measure the response and thereby have a feedback. This is what is called contextually intelligent communication, and that's my patent. So as you can imagine, this becomes powerful in any type of setting, and we're going to talk about how it has been powerful in a series of settings where we've driven some remarkable results. It's a single pane. You'll see the dashboard shortly. It's modular. We can scale it. We don't have to do it all in one go. And since it's modular and easy to integrate, we can start and scale with customers, whether they are enterprise and global, or if they're hyper-local and small. And that's the strength of this platform. The ecosystem we spent 10 years of building, spent millions of dollars of building the ecosystem, and now we can do modules. We've been sole source selected, so we've worked with some governments. This system works, it's secure, and it is complete. All right, so from a little bit more of a technical aspect, the ability to have an app interface. So we like to say that we're not an app company because we're an ecosystem company, but the typical user will interface and interact with our system via a app. We're going to look at that. So it's an app, but that app really is an interface into the ecosystem. We can do the typical online, offline, online systems because we have connections with the physical world and can interact with the physical world. We can talk with any type of device, and we can activate engagements within this ecosystem of the device, but it's all controlled from the centralized computation device. Campaign management, we have partners that do this, such as Sparks AdTech. This enablement, or yourself, this enablement of delivering information that's relevant to this person as they are in the physical location, makes this more of an UI into the physical. And of course, we can do rewards, we can activate payments, and we create data of behavior in the physical world via a digital representation. That's really what it is, connecting the physical with the digital. Again, we can go into the minutia here, but another element for the future, which is very cool, is the ability that we're not blockchain driven, we're blockchain integrated. So sometime in the future, if you ever want to talk about NFTs and you want to talk about a metaverse, which could be really, really cool in your settings, we can enable that interaction between the physical and the digital. We'll talk about that later. That capability is already built in. It's great when somebody like myself talks about the company. Typically we brag and we are very proud of what we built, but in this instance, we know that others like what we've done as well. AWS, as you know, Internet of Things. Beacon is one type of sensors. We have access to literally thousands of other beacons, IoT sensor systems. So as this ecosystem is deployed, it isn't just driven by a fan engagement or a user engagement. It could be utilized to be more, and so that is future-proof. That's another element that is extremely important as we're looking at deploying in venues. How can we ensure that we're not just a one-time and it's just for one purpose? As you can imagine, you can tell, we capture a lot of data, we aggregate the data, and aggregating unstructured data from a variety of data sources is something that's very powerful. And that's why we have a relationship with IBM Watson. IBM Watson can become a very powerful partner in that they have a series of pre-built AI modules that might be of value, whether it is a natural language chatbot directory of multiple languages, natural in the visitors' natural language if you have foreign visitors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we're partnered with them, and we're proud of being able to say SparkComp is with IBM Watson. That statement, as you know, IBM is a powerful name. And we have another powerful partner, Google Cloud. The projects that we're doing right now will be launched on Google Cloud, most likely. They're a very powerful partner, and they have an ability to do a whole series of additional use cases with us. All right. So let's talk a little bit about some specifics. So we've done a couple of things in the past. You probably haven't heard about us. We've been kind of in a stealth mode, but we've worked with some big brands. You obviously know Ole Miss. We're going to talk more about that, and we're going to show what we did with them. But we'll talk about the story about them. But we've worked also with Wimbledon tennis. We worked with sailing, with OTT streaming, America's Cup, the oldest sporting event in the world. And we have some big partners that we've deployed with. We've blah, 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 won some awards and so forth. And again, more not only on the technology side, but also the deployment side. So we can deliver and enable anywhere in the world. And as we talk about this ecosystem and you start seeing the component, you'll recognize a lot, right? So, all right, cool. Somebody's doing AR. Well, anybody can do, a lot of companies can do AR. A lot of companies can do beacons. A lot of people can do geofences. Some people can do indoor. But what we've done, which is unique to us and everybody is excited about, is that we've taken all of these point solutions and we put them into a complete puzzle. So instead of the individual components being pieces of the puzzle, they're part of an ecosystem, so that you have one dashboard, one interface that can enable a implementation of a technology to not be a single standalone and very challenging to integrate. We're actually integrated from the beginning. That's why we can say that we take real-time actions, we integrate with edge devices of any type, and we are integrating with touch points. That's a data ecosystem, right? Now, you could argue that you don't have to do all of this, certainly, but if you would want to sometime in the future do some predictive modeling on where people are walking and what kind of support you should have and where you should put restrooms if you're putting new restrooms in, this model can enable that kind of intelligence so that you can look at things and deliver something of value. And again, outcome, taking data and using the outcome. That's really what we do. We go from 0 to 5G, and obviously there's going to be 6G. We have partners that do private 5G networks. So if you have connectivity issue across the venue, I'd say a very powerful statement that I just made. The ability to have connectivity with telcos and say that you have a private interface, now all of a sudden your antennas can become a revenue generator for you, if that's of interest. All right. As we are talking to clients, we always sit down and we say, okay, how can we create an ROI for you? What's the ultimate result that you'd like to have? And when we say ROI, it's not necessarily return of investments. We're looking for results of implementation. So are we trying to sell you more money? Well, that's great, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you were also adding that we can help you with improving efficiencies, well, every dollar saved, it takes, on the bottom line, it takes $10 to make the same impact on the bottom line. So if you can improve efficiencies, that might be beneficial. Now, obviously, and we need to be careful here because we have marketing team members here as well, but the essence of the system is that we can have an understanding of what works. So if you want to have an understanding on an intelligence on the type of messages and the information that's delivered, and if you want to see what drives an outcome and results, we can help define that. And of course, the ability to drive customer behavior, consumer behavior, whether it is for people to buy more, stay longer, share with their friends. All of those components are things that we can enable and activate and prove. And that is all about improving outcomes. So while this is all very common with this platform, we have the ability to verify. All right. We're going to talk a little bit about a different space, but again, I think you'll see the commonality here and how they might be relevant to what you do. Right. So in the sports world, they're looking at having an event in a sporting venue. So people come there and they activate this moment. So most fan engagement venue activations in the sports world focusing on this moment of time. Well, you could argue that that's what's happening in a zoo as well. That's when people are inside your fences. That's when you want to communicate with them. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. And we can certainly enhance that. But if we could engage with somebody at home before they start, if we can engage with them en route to the venue, if we can certainly continue engaging with them in venue, but then also talk to them after and create a need or desire or a reason to come back, all of a sudden you can improve attendance. That's really what this ecosystem enables. It's not just about focusing on this moment of time, well, that's important. It's not about what's happening necessarily in the device. It is how can we enhance that journey and how can we engage so that people come back. A repeat visitor is often more powerful than a new visitor. And if you can get a local to come back and be a regular hallelujah, then all of a sudden you have a captive audience that you can bring back, as long as you can communicate with them. And that's what this system enables. It's an ecosystem. Yes, we can do streaming, and yes, we can reach people at home or on the journey. We can activate sales, we can activate engagements. It's all about being crass and say that it's all about monetizing that relationship. How can you ensure that the money spent per visitor is improved or at optimum without making the customer feeling like you're there just to make money on them? So it's a balance. And when you have a balance, when you have an ecosystem, we're going to show how some of these use cases are. It's all driven from the platform. It's all engaged from the platform. And our app interface, as we talked about, is that. It's an interface. It's an interface where the app feels like an app, but really there's a lot of technologies that are integrated on the back end. And here are some examples where we are presenting information to the user in the app interface. So yeah, you could argue that many apps do all elements on this, but when you have the ability to, from the backend, customize each of these individual features, all of a sudden this app interface becomes a communication interface where you can deliver content, you can activate everything, and whether you're selling a Ferrari or highlighting Formula One or you're the race, it doesn't matter, right? The same interface can now deliver this welcoming message. It can deliver this proof of presence, this enhancement of the moment of time, whether it is transportation there, whether it's exploration while you're there with maps and highlights of locations, activations of information. If you want to integrate with ticketing, if you want to integrate with offers, all of that is there. And of course, we can deal this journey, we can activate that journey. And we're just showcasing this because it doesn't matter where in the world we are, it only matters where in the world the user is. So we can control the system so that it activates in Qatar for World Cup. We can integrate and enable interactions to occur where things are happening, digital signage comes alive, all controlled from this platform. And as you will see, it doesn't matter where if that is in Qatar or at Ole Miss, same ecosystem can deliver messages for that person who's walking up to the sign and provide value, integration, and I'm going to go really fast right now because we talked about this. But again, with a system like this, yes, we can do fan engagement, but we can also help with operations, and we can do data to provide knowledge. Now, these are not necessarily lead, but these are a natural extension into an ecosystem, an investment into an engagement that enables interactions to occur, whether it's streaming, whether it is interacting, whether you're monetizing streaming. I know you guys have some remarkable video feeds that if you wanted to monetize, we could enable. In this instance, we have a feed where we can have, this is a penalty shots in soccer, football. In Europe, they kick the ball with football. and he's about to shoot a penalty. Now Masala, his jersey can become highlighted in the feed, and click it and you buy it. So the ability to integrate content and engage with locations. This is kind of a fun little project we did with the pop star Selena Gomez and Puma, the shoe manufacturer. Does that have to do with you guys? Well, it could have a lot. So in this instance, what we did was that she went out, she's an ambassador for Puma. She has a lot of followers, and she told her followers that were in Beverly Hills during a period of time, if they download the Defy City app and walk around Beverly Hills, they'll find posters hidden at certain locations. And when they come in front of these posters and they use this app, they could hold the app and the poster would come alive in augmented reality. If you found 5 locations, all 7 locations, you would win a prize, and some of the lucky winners were invited to come and meet Selena in person. Kind of a fun journey. Something that could be really cool to activate across your venue, right? Or extend it into your partner locations across the city. And it's all about creating experiences for the end user. That's really what this is. This is a system that can enable these integrations and interactions before you enter and while you enter, where digital signage can come alive in a minority report kind of environment, but instead of just being advertising, it to provide value. These are just some of the highlights of the ways that this system can activate. We have blockchain integrated. Maybe we'll just go through this really fast because I know that's a little futuristic, but the idea to connect the physical and the digital and the digital and the physical, just showcasing this as something that we do, and we can enable that activation of a metaverse. We could create a metaverse around the zoo. We can activate NFTs. We can activate gameplay and loyalty around this technology. It's that easy. 1, 2, 3 NFTs created for a picture. That's how quickly we can enable something where your animals could have their own NFTs. You could create a collection of trading cards. Well, would that be interesting? Well, maybe, but maybe it's a little goofy, but it could be very interesting because you're the first. And this ecosystem is not only just doing that, it engages across the physical, the digital, and the interfaces here with the mobile payments enablement as well. It's real. We're going to show that this is an ecosystem where all of these components, I'm actually going to go back here and show this. So we have beacons, we have messages, we have rewards, we have geofences, we have digital signage, we have augmented reality, we have push notification, all live in the ecosystem, and we deployed this at Ole Miss. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what we did for our friends at Ole Miss, Hotty Toddy. They came to us and said, we have no problems when the boys are playing football. The Grove is full, the stadium is full, there's over 100,000 people coming, big party time. But when the girls are playing football, soccer as they called it, nobody used to come. So they asked us to build an ecosystem for them. So we built an ecosystem. This is a reward system. And keep in mind that everything you see here is controlled from the platform. So we have a interactive menu where you can do all sorts of interactions within the app. You guys have a great app, and so you understand the power of an app. But this interface now enables sponsors and interactions and highlights of fans and rewards to be integrated as well. And that's really where this encouragement to come and rewards for being drives behavior. And that's one of the things where we know that this works. We activated a campaign with our friends at Coca-Cola. And in that instance, they asked us to build activate the venue, the stadium, with a partner where the lights in the stadium would flash in sync with the music naturally, but also in sync with the flashlight on the phone. I'm so old that when I used to go to concerts when I was a kid, we used to have lighters, big lighters. I burned my fingers. I can still feel that feeling. Now we activated the stadium flashlights, so the lights on the phone to sync, and all of a sudden we had an engagement. That interaction was supposed to be an engagement, a campaign that was supposed to last for 4 activations, 2 home games, third and fourth quarters, and they had set aside a huge number of prizes to give away for those 4 activations. Well, what happened was that so many people engaged with us that the whole inventory was given away in the first 15 seconds. This is a powerful situation. This is a powerful ecosystem. We drive results, we drive relationships, and that's really where this is a real situation where we can activate anywhere in the world. We can deliver these engagements, these activations, and that's really what we're going to show. There's 22,500 students. We had 26,000 active users. We'd like to go in and show that this is a system that can work anywhere in the world. And if we go in, sorry for making this here, we're going to zoom into the center of the universe, which in this instance is Oxford, Mississippi. You will see now we have the campus. You'll see a series of these squares and shapes. These are actually what we call the geofence. And you probably know what that means, but I'll just kind of, so just let me explain for those that might not know it. A geofence means that there is a digital boundary, and when somebody crosses this that have an app activated that have given us permission by having the app open, or sorry, having the app installed, we measure that and record that as an event. Now, if we go into satellite view, you'll see that this is a fairly good representation of the outline of the stadium. So that means that we know when somebody walks in. That can be powerful, right? That could be really bad, and particularly in our ecosystem where we tell them, if you go to the Texas A&M game, you get 10 points. So we would need to have a verification that you walked into it, but we also have to have the other element of when that happens. So we have to have the time element. That's why we have to have an event which records who, where, and what did that person do. And then another couple of data points. Now here it gets cool. So now imagine if we were to install a series of beacons. This is how many beacons we have at the Ole Miss Stadium. I don't know if you know that when you were there, but we were collecting data, user data all around here. Now, so each one of these beacons, when anybody comes into proximity to it, our system knows. And based on that knowledge, as you know, we can then serve up information that's relevant to that specific location. Now, that could be just something that is relevant for this moment of time, but it could also be something that with our platform is defined around a journey, right? So somebody walks into this door at the south end stands. We know that there's very few people around the concession stand on S2, S3. We could send a message from Coca-Cola and saying that if you go up to the concession at S2, S3 and buy a Coca-Cola, you'll get a free hot dog. That message could be sent the moment you come into proximity based on this beacon, based on what the data is on this beacon. Right? So now all of a sudden you can create behavior, you can measure behavior, but you can also drive behavior. So as you can see, we had a shit ton of beacons around. And what's important with this is that these are identified by the user ID, the beacon ID, but also they're representing on a map, so we can basically click and find out what we need to do for each of those beacons in addition to the geofence. So right over here, of course, you have the geolocation as well. All right, now, so I mentioned that the app interface is controlled from the platform. So the app, each of the components in the app are controlled from this dashboard. We can change the look, we can change the feel, we can change the interaction, we can change what this represents, whether it's for a sponsor, or whether it's for an event, or whether it's for a location. We can take data from the platform and present that. We can enable gameplay inside so people can engage with this, particularly valuable if somebody's standing in a queue, they're bored. If you can have a trivia contest that is activated there and then, that could be engaging. And of course, we can also create this where you do the selfie and also activate and encourage people to share with a social media network. And of course, you can have a highlight field. So people actually were taking pictures of themselves. That selfie interface, well, why would they do that? Well, they did that because we had the ability to to highlight people in the app. I'm sharing this because most people are saying, oh, well, only the students are doing this, only the kids are doing this, this is for a young kid. Well, as you saw in this instance, these are old, I'm not going to say old people because they're my age, but they're older than the student population for sure. And so that's enablement. Creating events, I need to be careful here, but creating events is done from this backend. As you can see from the side here, side menu, all the different components that we talked about, video library, engagement of fans to activate them, points redemption. You talked about the points redemption. That's something very key. You went to get your points, you got your rewards, activating rewards, setting up the rewards, easy to do each season, setting up push notifications or messages, easy from it, whether it is regular, whether it is based on a time, or whether it's based on an event, all controlled from this backend platform where you can deliver and set up these messages, the locations, and the beacons, all controlled from this instance where battery temperature, all of these components are included, even AR activations, NFT, NFC activations, and of course, digital signage can be activated all throughout this advanced platform. And this stores data. That's another element that is powerful here, and we have permission to share this data and showcase it. This ability to showcase that somebody walked into a geofence, or they entered something, let's say Mr. Blank, whoever she is or he is, they walked into Ole Miss at this very specific location at some time. Okay, well, that's the headquarters. So must be an intern that walked into the headquarters at Ole Miss. That's a granularity of information that the system can do, which is not, we're not tracking this person, right? We don't know which way they necessarily came, so it's not a tracking, it's not a tracking mechanism. It is when they interacted with something within our ecosystem that triggered an event. We record and retain that event because that could be valuable, particularly for this instance, because there might be Einstein Bagels might have an offer. We could send that to her at 1 o'clock. We know she's in the building. Walk out the door, walk down the All-American Drive down to Einstein, and you'll get a 2-for-1 lunch today. We integrate with a third-party SMS provider. We can deliver it on a schedule. So it could be scheduled, it could be instant, it could be based on profile, it could be based on events. So all of those parameters can be activated. Well, that'd be easy, just plug that in. And that is a very powerful component that you just mentioned there. The idea here again is that we don't want you to throw away what you have, right? We integrate with legacy systems. They have an API call, no problem, in the app. Now, ultimately, they also have an easy to integrate backend system so that when you run a campaign, you don't have to run a SMS campaign separate from a email campaign and separate from a beacon triggered campaign. But we haven't so far found anybody we couldn't integrate with, but it's obviously depending on what capabilities and permissions they do. And that's really where this becomes powerful, right? If you can now locate somebody or activate a text message based on some event or something that's happening, that text message now has more relevance than just the inundation of bullshit text messages we all get. So this is a contextually intelligent communication, meaning that we understand who we're communicating with, number one. We understand their activity, we understand where they are. We communicate with them for a purpose. It's not just to drive an ad, it's not just to drive an offer, it is something that really has relevance. And that's how you create a relationship with the consumer, right? That's what this is. This is a relationship enablement. And if you can interact with the consumer, the fan, the traveler, the visitor at the steps of points where you can bring value, all of a sudden you create that differentiator. And that's why more than 100% of the student population, total addressable market, would download and activate and engage on a regular basis.